Randy, how are you, good sir?
I'm doing all right. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing amazing. Look, I was
Good.
trying to ask on the last call, what's your cat's name?
Oh,
I saw him like on your shoulder. I'm like, we got to get the name of him, but it was too late.
that's Mr. Boo.
Mr. Boo? Got
Yeah.
it. What's up, y'all? Steven, you're talking to me. I can't hear you, man. You got to get off mute.
I'm off mute.
You are? Okay, I can hear you now.
All right, there we go.
There we go.
Mike, what's up, man?
I made it. Had to do a hard restart. What's going on, guys? Good to see everyone's faces.
Yep.
Back from freezing Vale. It was beautiful, though. Super Vale. Who's been to Vale? Drop in the comments. I'd be interested to know. Who else has been there?
No, I haven't.
Mark raised his hand. Mark, you been? Nope.
Nice.
Play.
Good. And we have Mr. Taylor Welch in the house. Yes. Back
What's up, Taylor?
back from the snowy land of Vail, Colorado.
Hey, are we gonna tell him?
Let's tell him.
Are you gonna tell him?
No, you're going to tell him.
Night one. Mr. Man from California who's never been in the altitude before.
Oh, no.
I asked you if you were gonna tell him, and you said, "Yeah, let's tell him."
No, I thought you were saying something else, but it's okay. That's fine.
We can't stop now. We can't stop now. Mike hasn't been in the altitude before, and he's like, "Yo, I'm one of you, one of us." We're like, "Okay, come hang, bro." So he gets in the hot tub. He hasn't had a drink of water since he landed.
That's
Not even a sip. And we're in the hot tub. It's like 24 degrees, 23 degrees, but you're in a hot tub, so you're like sweating. You know, this man gets out of the hot tub and crashes, passes out.
Yep.
And he's like, "Oh, man, that was weird." And I was like, "Have you had any water?" He's like, "Not really." It was like 8,500 feet up in the air, and altitude sickness got him good. Got him good. But don't worry, we were there. We picked him up, put him in a chair, pampered off his face, gave him a cup of water, and he was good to go.
I was good to go. Good times, guys. I earned my stripes.
Yeah, too good for water. He doesn't like water.
Apparently, I swim in it, but don't drink it, right? Oh, man. All right. Well, enough of the making fun of Mike show.
So
let's dive in. I know we're going to have a bunch of Q&A, and with Taylor in here, we have double the brain power here on this particular topic, so I'm excited for that. I do have some slides I want to dive into, you guys, but before we do, drop in the chat with a yes or no whether you feel like you 100% nailed Module 3. You've gotten through it. You know what you're doing exactly, and most importantly, you actually acted upon it. You've implemented it into the marketplace. That would be very interesting to know. Yes or no. Ben says no, but acted on it. Still working through it. Implemented, got through it, but feeling it's a constant work in progress. In progress. Still getting feedback. Yes, implemented, position myself. Steven, not sure what that means. Yes and no?
Yeah, it's a yes and a no. I've gone through Module 3 before, but as I posted earlier today, I'm actually on my second time through Launch Kit. It's so funny that Taylor's actually in here this time because that was one of the things that I commented on there, because early in the program, he says, "Do not rush through this. It doesn't work that way. It's not going to happen." So guess what I did? I rushed through it, and now I'm on my second time through. So lesson learned. Thanks, Steve.
Hey, man. Hey, sometimes we just have to learn the lesson so it sticks forever. So
it's going to stick.
Nothing wrong with that, man. Nothing wrong with that.
True statement. And that's a good segue into the topic in general, guys, because like I mentioned before, and no doubt you'll hear me say it again, and no doubt Taylor as well, that this is the absolute foundation of your business. Like if you don't understand who your market is, what they want, what they need, everything falls apart. Like it's the concrete. You are building on sand without having this completely locked down. And like a lot of foundations, you got to come back and strengthen it. You got to put some extra, support in there over time as you learn and fortify it even more. And so what I'm going to do really quick is I'm going to get through some of these key principles with some slides with you guys. And then, like I said, we're going to use the good part of the call to just go through the process and make sure you guys don't have any sticking points, any questions, et cetera, et cetera. Does that sound good?
Let's do it.
Cool. All right. Let me share my screen. It's going to be this one here, and go. All right. Cool. So understanding your ideal client, like I already just said, this is mission critical. And let's dive into market sophistication. This is a concept that not everybody necessarily understands. I know I wish I understood this when I first got, going in business and was launching my first company. I really wish I understood this nuance of the marketplace, because it absolutely will increase your efficiency with your marketing, with your messaging, and just general sales and everything that goes downstream of that. So stage one, problem aware. Educate about the problem. If they're barely aware of the problem, if they're just getting kind of aware of like, oh yeah, there's this thing in my life, whether I want more of something or I want less of something, but they don't necessarily know too much more than that, then you really want to lean in on educating them about that. It puts you in a state of authority, and it allows you to, inject some value into their life. That value proposition is going to establish you as an authority and as a trusted figure. Taylor, is there anything you want to expand on that before I go into stage two?
Yeah, I'd say the problem aware is kind of like the basic. It's the most unsophisticated, where people are just kind of in a position of pain, but they don't always know why. So you'll always get some bang for your buck by talking about the problem. And then we pivot later and talk about sales. We always switch someone back to problem aware, even when marketing takes them into opportunity and solution. We'll always reference the problem. So people, if you miss the problem, you miss everything else. You have to know what the problem is that you're solving and be able to describe it simply to the market.
Describe it simply. Love that. Yeah, and that's a good point, man. Like, it's not necessarily my market is stage one and that's it. We use all elements, all 4 stages of this in the communication process. And it will really help your content creation process as we get into like module 5, where we get into organic, marketing and whatnot. It's really a critical component. Stage 2 is solution aware. So this is where you really want to educate the pros and cons on figuring out, what do I do about it? Yes, I'm aware of the problem, and I'm starting to become aware of the fact that there are some options out there, but they don't necessarily know where to go. They're kind of wandering around in the dark. Again, this is where it puts you into a position of teaching and educating your market. Taylor, any thoughts on that one?
No, solution is pretty self-explanatory. I think that what I try to do when explaining the solution is actually, this is a little bit of a trick. So I hope you guys are cool with some sneaky sneak. But I want to actually describe what the solution is not before I go into what the solution is. Because if you know the problem and you know what doesn't work, that's sometimes the best form of marketing. You probably tried this, but it doesn't work and it's not going to work. In fact, there's a 2-step right now in the group, the Wealthy Consulting group, where I'm talking about things that don't work. And when you can do that, people naturally want to know what does work. And that leads you to the solution piece in stage number 2.
That's fire. I love that. Nice. Stage 3, product aware. So this is where we go and educate on the various options and your unique service or value proposition in the marketplace. What separates you from the others? Taylor, you are an absolute pro in this particular component. What do you say about this part?
Yeah, so the way that we build products, how do I say this? The way that we build products is pretty sharp. Let me describe what I mean by that. We want things that are very intellectually basic and understood. So we spend a lot of time explaining why our product works. And if you explain why the product works, people will naturally ask you what the product is. Does that make sense? So we're not just saying like, look, this program and this program and this program sucks, and the only program that works is XYZ. What we'll say is that when you get XYZ, you get 1, 2, 3. And you'll see this in the group all the time. People are like, what's launch kit? What's chamber? What that is an invitation for somebody to be taken by the hand and go from stage 2 to stage 3. You want ideally someone to ask you to go to stage 3. And if they're not asking to go to stage 3, it means you're not doing a good enough job on stage 1 and stage 2. So these are all cumulative levels. This is where permission starts to factor in. You're doing it right when people are like, what is this? What is that thing? Okay, cool. They're asking to have they want the door for stage 3 opened for them, and you take them through.
Nailed that. Yeah, 100%, man. That's awesome. I love that. Permission component. That's a good thing there. I love that. And then stage 4 is most aware, right? They've been around the block, been there, done that. They're probably been a little jaded, kind of pissed off about it probably. Maybe they lost some money, they lost some time. They were told that they were going to be rich in 30 days and they're not. Who knows what, right? So this is where we want to come in and we have to address that level of awareness and sophistication, but we also want to probably use a sharper, more direct, specific solution that makes you unique to everything else that they've tried, or very clearly better or different. Taylor, you're the master at this one too. And we deal with the most jaded market of all. I would say that the online info space, coaches, consultants, they get like onslaughted in LinkedIn and Facebook. So what do we do in-house from the marketing side to really cut through that noise and that resistance that we're naturally going to face knowing our avatar?
Stage 4 is, if you want a definition of stage 4, you could say someone is at stage 4 when they have connected your product to the solution to the problem that they're experiencing. So stage 4 is a chain. When someone is connecting all of these 3 stages together and your product is what's going to take them there as a vehicle, then they're in stage 4. So the easiest way is not the fastest way, but this is the easiest way, is to give them enough messages so that they are naturally associating your product as the vehicle to take them to the solution. Does that make sense? And if it doesn't, just post in the thing and we'll keep going on this. But this is my style for taking somebody to stage 4, is when they are finally connecting the product to the solution.
Love it. Love it. Love it. And to that point, again, guys, if you have questions or whatnot, just know that we're going to be, we're rifle firing quickly here, but we're going to dig into your questions here in a minute. I kept it purposely short on the slide side. Now, one of the things that we covered in module 3 was this a very simplistic chart of understanding the value proposition and the sophistication, and how, when I say value, I don't mean value as a person, like they're all valuable and they're all valuable as clients, but we have to understand that in our marketing and in the amount of time and effort that we put in, it's very likely that we're going to have to put in more value, more time into the more sophisticated audiences, simply because they've been there, done that, right? Like the trust barrier is going to be higher than it would otherwise be to someone who's just very new into the market and maybe hasn't necessarily experienced anything other than the fact that, again, they have a problem. So that's pretty straightforward stuff. But what wasn't in module 3, and what I wanted to cover with you here, is this concept, the unaware. And this is where we get into like creative mode as entrepreneurs, and like, I want to design this whole cool new thing and blah, blah, blah. And it sounds really fun. And I would love to just create it. Cool. But how are you going to sell that if it's 2 people that doesn't necessarily know that they even have a problem, or there's a desire? Now, when we say problem, that can be again, something they want or something they want to get away from. It doesn't have to be an absolute problem. But my point is this: just be very, very aware of where you fall here. Because if you're marketing to an audience that doesn't even know that they need whatever it is that you have, can you do that? Yeah, but you're going to have to spend a lot of time just educating them on the idea that they even want or need something, and then you can kind of get into the process. So now you're kind of adding a whole bunch more work and a whole bunch more time to create this. Taylor, am I on track with this?
You are. I'll add one thing here. Like, once, when you're trying to get to 10, 15, maybe 20,000 a month in consistent income, you do want to start at like stage 1, because there is a percentage of the market that's already looking for the solution. When we get into like chamber training, which is really about home growing long-term audiences, there is a stage 0 And next to stage 0, you could just write the word opportunity. And this is pre-problem. And the way we're communicating to this market is through opportunities. So you'll see me sometimes post, and this is actually the most fascinating part of being inside on the inside. You guys can ask me questions about posts or VSLs or things that you see us producing, and I'll explain to you why they're written the way that they are. But if you see a post in a Facebook group where I'm saying things like this, it doesn't have to be that way. Or clients do XYZ, but they don't necessarily realize they don't have to do that. What I'm doing there is I'm in stage 0 and I'm focusing on opportunity. And you want the market to think like, oh, I never knew that it didn't have to be this way. Now we have a problem.
Yes.
Notice, like, we've actually helped them identify that they have a problem. And then they're in stage 1. Does that make sense?
I love that. You create a gap, right? They're like, wait, I'm here and there is such a thing as there. Oh, now we've defined a gap between where they want to be and where they currently are. So
we even have this on, sorry to interrupt, but we even have this on calls sometimes. Sometimes like an SDR or a setter will just get someone on a call, and they'll show up with like kind of this mindset of like, I don't really need anything. Like, if you know what I'm talking about, nod your head for me real fast. Like, have you had this conversation where somebody's like, yeah, I don't even know why I'm on this call, but I thought I would see what you do.
Yeah.
The problem is they're stage 0, and we don't typically get people on calls until they're like in the middle of 2 and 3 for the most part. Like, and so what the AE will have to do is they'll have to kind of reverse engineer showing someone that they actually do have a problem. Someone will be like, I've been doing business for 12 years. Life is really good. I'm crushing it, doing 150K a year. And our AE will have to be like, what? 12 years, 150 grand? Like, you would kind of be in the bottom percentile of every client we've had in history.
Yeah.
And that may sound rude, but what we're trying to do is create a little bit of a separation. Like, we got to show someone what's possible. And we're doing that through opportunity and trying to get them into realizing that they do have a problem. If nobody believes they have a problem, they're probably not going to buy anything.
Boom. Boom. Love it. All right, guys. And as we wrap up, you'll remember in module 3, I listed 5 questions to help you identify where they fall. And again, this is not a matter of, oh, I'm only marketing to stage 1 or I'm only marketing to stage 2. It's understanding in your communications, where your people are and making sure you're communicating appropriately. So I'm not going to go through these verbatim, but I just wanted to remind you guys that we have these 5 questions pinned in a way that's going to help you extract insights that you can then spin around and turn into organic messaging, into posts, blog posts, podcasts, ebooks, you name it. Like, it just gives you almost infinite ammo for communicating with your marketplace. Taylor, the wordsmith, knows this probably better than almost anybody else on the planet. Taylor, where do you dive in when you start to extract all these different stages, and how do you want to communicate that? Like, what do you choose to use and when?
It always helps. And I see Dustin's question too. It kind of parlays into what you're saying. The messaging we use is we use all 5 stages. And I know that Mike went through 4, but we do count stage 0 as a stage. So we're writing messaging for all 5. Before you sit down to make a post or write an email or anything, think in your mind, like, what do I want the outcome of this post to be? What stage is this for? Because if it's, for example, it's for stage 0, you're going to write that post different because you want to explain to the person what at the end of the post, you want the market to think, oh, I do have a problem.
Hang on.
That's okay. I muted him. You do want the market to think at the end of the post, oh, I do have a problem. I do have a problem. You're wanting to take somebody from stage 0 to stage 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. So there are some posts that I'll write. I'm specifically trying to show them that our product is the most advanced, superior product. So what do I want the market to think after they read the post? I want them to think like, oh, this is the vehicle that will take me to the solution. What do I want someone to think if I'm writing to stage 3? I want them to think there is a very basic solution that I have not thought of yet. What do I want to write? What do I want them to think at the end of a problem post? I want them to think that wherever they're at right now is not where they're supposed to be. So I'm layering that the outcome directs the copy.
Love that. And that was one of the big things I learned from you, Taylor, was having that clear thought prior to writing anything, or at the very least, making sure that I can answer the question before I actually click the submit button, which is, what do I want them to feel? What do I want them to think when I send this? And it's a really, really, it's simple, but it's really, really powerful. And I think it's a concept that if everybody assimilates it into their strategy, you'll find a significant difference in the efficacy of your messaging when you filter it through those terms.
Yep, 100%. Did anybody see the email that went out today from TWC?
Yeah, I did. It was fantastic.
Okay. So that email, let's just pull. If you saw the email, what stage do you think that was written for?
Give it a minute.
So when you find it, Stephen, you'll read it with new lenses. It was written for a problem aware. And I want to take them to the solution. So I spent a lot of time talking about the problem, why the problem exists, why they're struggling, what's happening in the economy, how the Federal Reserve and the central bank is connected to that problem. And then through that problem, the pitch on that email was, go here and apply for the solution.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a perfect example. I'll find, I will place that email, guys, in with the replay of this, so that it will be a reference to this replay. Fantastic. All right, let's wrap.
Let me just read Destin's comment right now, because Destin's actually on it. This is a very educational email. Stage 0 will leave. Stage 2 and beyond are probably not going to be that interested in it. But if I would have said, if the email would have led with come learn customer acquisition at this event, it would have been more product. It would have been higher up. So that's actually a spot on analysis. So the stage you're communicating to will actually repel the people who are not in that stage as well.
Ooh, good insight. Good insight. And to that point, Taylor, is that a good thing when we're sending out messaging and it's repelling or not?
Yeah. If your message is not repelling a certain tranche of the audience, it's not going to speak to the stage that you're trying to speak to either. So to speak to one stage, again, this is cumulative, but if you're speaking to one stage in particular, you want that stage to pay attention to you, and the other stages won't necessarily care that much.
Love that. Really good insight. Okay, cool. All right. So as we wrap on the slides, guys, the strategy we were using is the market survey. This is one of many strategies you can use to extract insights and information, really to test your message market match and make sure that you have the vernacular, the keywords that people are using in your TAM to describe their problem, or can they even describe their problem, right? Everything we've just been talking about. So there's a walkthrough on how to create either a Google form or Jot form, or you name it. There's no shortage of different forms tools out there. But what I did do last week, if you guys were paying attention, was that I dropped a strategy to address this question. What's in it for me? Why is someone going to fill out a market survey? Like, who the hell wakes up in the morning and go, man, I can't wait to fill out a market survey. I hope someone sends me one, right? Like no one on earth is thinking that when they wake up. So what do? We have to make it worth their while. And a simple strategy that I've used and has proven effective for me over the years has been to offer a live workshop. In exchange for attendance, you simply have to fill out the form. And I frame that as, hey, I want to make sure that this workshop is as on point and timely for you as possible. Because of that, spend 2 seconds and fill out this form or something to that effect, right? And I provide in those slides that I shared last week the exact messaging templates to achieve that. So I'd like to know in the chat who actually deployed this strategy, or who is going to, having viewed it, actually take action. I'd be really interested. If you don't, that's fine. I'm just curious who will. And Randy, I know you did, so good job on that. I'm excited to see what you get done. Mark says he's going to. Ben sent it out to an affiliate list. Frederick, I haven't, but I will. Ryan, getting a workshop set for next week. Nice. Good, good, good. All right, fantastic. All right, Leo, let's hit us in the comments here with our questions queue, and let's fire away.
Got you. So Gonzalo would be first, and then Randy.
Gonzalo, what is up, sir?
Let's see. 1 second. So more than a question, Taylor, I'd love if you guys could go back into like ways of what you were talking about inversion, because it's something that I'm like pretty sloppy on. But right now, the way you experience, like you said it and I experienced it, man, I actually think that's super powerful where you were saying, tell the client about all that hasn't worked. Because I have a full-on stream of things that hasn't worked. And my industry is like very cliche for that. Applications that don't get responses. Recruiters don't reach out to you. That's one, it's a first of two parts. And the other side of it was what I made in my comment, which had to do, yes, I said, is it possible that a lot of your market is not really problem aware because it's pretty niche? And I'll give you a bit of context. After going through the content, I'm looking to potentially transition like fully consciously my niche into international white collar workers. My massive niche is I can integrate career strategy with immigration strategy. People that actually want to get a job abroad, and there's a visa component which puts a hold on their life. It's super emotional, long, etc. So what I'm thinking of, just fully going in that direction, a lot of these people don't know that their issue is their the golden cage of this visa, and the whole emotion and being an immigrant away from their family. I've been one, so I'm not sure. Is that clear?
I don't understand your question, Gonzalo.
Yeah. So is it possible that a lot of your market is not problem aware of what the real problem is when it comes to this immigration issue? Like a lot of people are like, oh, companies don't sponsor. That's my problem. Companies don't sponsor my visa. But the problem really is that you have an immigrant self-image, which you think that an American, for example, has, more of a chance to get that job or deserves it more, or scarcity mentality because that is the only person that made it to the US, and they have all their parents and their family with this huge expectations. Their problems isn't that company's own sponsored. I got sponsored for a company that a lot of people say doesn't sponsor. You can go online and see what filings they've brought in for their H-1B visas and shit, and they will still tell you.
So real quick, let me level set this, because what you're talking about is you're using specificity. They don't realize that something specific is the problem, something specific, tangible. If you're talking about specificity, you're in solution stage, because you're talking about the things that don't work as a solution. If you're in problem stage, you're talking about the problem macro, not a specific list of problems. If somebody doesn't realize they have a problem at all, then they're in stage 0, which is you have to show them opportunity.
Right.
So inversion really doesn't come into play until the solution aware stage. That's when inversion is used, because then you're able to say, you've probably tried this and it doesn't work. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. And so you'll see these old trainings, I was so early on this, and it worked like a dream way back in the day, probably 9 years ago, on the old way versus the new way. You guys remember all of those trainings?
Yeah, so good. This
is a solution stage kind of frame. So blogging, podcasting, and we had this list of things of this is dumb, don't do this. That's solution. We're actually disqualifying a lot of the known solutions that I don't want the market to get in love with. And the only solution is this, and you redirect them this way.
Yeah. You're breaking paradigms, right? Because there's this old like concept they've been indoctrinated to believe it's this, and you have to go, no, no, no. Here's why all these things aren't working anymore, and then you pivot, and instantly you're in like a bluer ocean because they're like, wait, oh wow. And again, it's authority building. You taught them, like, you literally through a post, a singular post, you can illustrate your authority in the market and a trusted source of information.
I mean, I'll tell you this, Mike, to what you're saying, like with authority building, and this happened right after I went to Nashville. I met with some clients. I had an avatar client tell me in person, and she hasn't even, like, she got results. She got an offer by Rockwell Collins, but then they pulled it out with the sponsorship. She told me that her mom prays for me every night. And I was like, crap, that's heavy. Like, that's like, if somebody, it's a Kenyan girl that made it to the US, like somebody is willing to tell their family and their mom, you know, something a Spanish mother will do, for example. Like, I'm Spanish, so
that's good.
So that hit me hard, man, and put a tear in my eye. So awesome. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate this.
All right. Randy, you are up, sir.
Thank you. So what you guys were talking about is, I think what I'm running into is that I have, because my target market is attorneys, they've been formally trained how to go about doing the things that they do. The problem is that all those things kill them. They're depressed. They're stressed beyond belief. They can't get, but they've been trained that this is a way to do it. And so essentially, I guess you kind of answered my question is, how do I go about breaking that? And it is fundamental because they are extremely problem aware. They know that this is going on, and they don't have a clue about how to handle it. So I'm bringing some different thoughts. That was part of the whole idea of the workshop is to bring, instead of this constant, grind of being an attorney and being, paralegals and what have you, is to start integrating agile strategies, right? Kind of like software programmers use, but geared to the legal field. And so I wanted to see that workshop, whether that was going to actually work for me or not. So I appreciate that kind of clarity because it makes a big difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, to take that even a step further, when you have like more institutional training involved in a market, you can really get a lot of leverage just by showing or asking what is the effect of the training that you've put to use. And then you have the market sort of self-validating for you. So if you have and by sophisticated, unsophisticated, let me just like take you macro for a second, Randy. Like if somebody's coming out of, they work at a gym and they're wanting to get into a personal training business, that market, we would call that market relatively unsophisticated because there's no institutionalized, standardized training protocol for that market. When you get into serving doctors, attorneys, corporate consultants, things like that, there's so much institutionalization that everyone's sort of trained on the same playbook. You have an easier time there because you can literally just say, look, I'm assuming everyone on this call has been trained the same way. Yeah. And so, if you're anything like my other clients, you got your degree, you go through the business basics, you learn how to kind of do your thing, you're practicing law. But let me ask you this, is the way that they trained you to run your business effective? And if you're on this call because you're trying to grow your practice, then the answer is no, it's not. Because if it was effective, you would not be on a call trying to fix the broken practice. So that's a very easy way for you to kind of position yourself where the market's kind of validating the problem for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. That makes a lot more sense. Give me a kind of an inroad there. I think by the way, I think I made a mistake, probably two of them, on the workshop, I tied filling out the form to the ticket to come to the workshop. and they're not filling it out. They're not putting in anything because the only way to tie it is I need their email address or some way to know who they are. And they're like going, nope. And they're walking away. I've had, let's see, 130 people clicked on the link that got them to the form only to pop right off.
What was the frame of how you got them to click the link?
That the workshop was available, and you could get a free ticket simply by filling out the survey.
Yeah. Okay. Was that it?
That was really it. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And I had them go off of the first link very well. The first day was 76 people out of 350.
I would beef that up a little bit because there's no value that you attach to the workshop.
Right.
So the way that I would reframe this is I would say, look, I've been doing this for many years. I've helped XYZ amount of people not only grow their practice, but do it in a sustainable way. I'm going to spend an hour and a half with you solving the biggest problems you have in growing your practice. And instead of charging you money, which I'm paid handsomely to do this, all I want is for you to tell me the problems so that I can solve them on the workshop. You're going to have a much better take rate.
Take that attachment off and then bump up the reason behind it. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And another way to do this, if you just like hate workshops, you're like, I just can't stand it. I would rather die than get on a workshop. I've done this in the past where I've said, hey, I'm going to the drawing board next week. I'm going to spend 6 days building a brand new product because I want to create something for you. Tell me what to build. Click the link here, and you can do the same. It's the same effect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, people, like, there's a wall, right, between people and what you want them to do over here. They will jump that wall if they believe the other side is worthy of them jumping the wall. But you have to paint that picture. That wall can be 20 fucking feet high. Doesn't matter. They'll figure it out as long as it's worth their time to do it. But if you're like, yeah, just get to the other side. No, it's too high. Can't do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Excited to see what you come up with, Randy. I know you're doing the work, man. I'm proud of you. Pal, let's go.
Yeah, so I posted, the progress on the target customer and all that, and the way of describing, what I do, and going through the module. It seems to suggest that, you create like a 4-part video course. I'm not sure I'm entirely ready for that. I think I'm still kind of more in the market research, and now like people discuss these other options, like there's a workshop, there's lead magnets and all of that. I'm kind of wondering what could be the best next step for me to explore that. Like, people are lining up. I get these calls, several per week. So it's ramping up. There is progress. And then I'm wondering, okay, so what should I look into next? Like a midterm goal.
Well, I've got a question for you, and then Mike's probably got answers, but why do you feel like you're not ready for that? I just want to understand first.
Oh, I mean, there is a number of things. I think just the transition from employment, like last 10 years, I've been working at large companies like Google, and, I've always felt entrepreneurial. So, like once they became super big, it became about like multi-quarter roadmaps. I said, okay, look, that's not for me. Then I realized that just jumping into entrepreneurship is quite rough when you make that change. It took me like months to just like adjust my psyche, or just, kind of get used to that.
Yeah.
And I just don't feel confident enough to like say, like, these are exactly the things you need to do for the type of problem I'm tackling. So I'm tackling a pretty large problem, which is like company's engineering culture. I was thinking about smaller ones. Like there is a bunch of context in those. One of the things I'm thinking about is like just some small ebooks or some mini courses, right? So kind of taking some small steps and feeling more confident, kind of being by myself in the business.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have thoughts on this, so I'll turn it over to Mike. But I think that when someone has the experience, when somebody has the experience of expertise, but they don't have the experience of entrepreneurship, the glitch is only in the mind.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So I think you'll just have to decide what currency you want to pay in. Because you could pay in the currency of time, where you just kind of start really slow and you sell an ebook and you just do random stuff until you kind of work up the confidence. Or you could pay in the currency of that whiplash feeling of like somebody pays you 10 grand and you're like, oh my God, what do I do? But either way, you're going to pay. And I think that you're not going to feel ready until you do it. And so to me, the fastest way to feel ready is to do it. And it will be uncomfortable, but you've got a support crew here of people who like, how many of you have taken, watch this. How many of you have taken your first client? Keep your hands up for a second. Keep them up. How many of you, all right, hands back down. How many of you didn't have any clients before you took your first client? There you go. So, I mean, there's nothing until you just decide to do it. I would not start with a book. I just wouldn't. I would start by taking your first client, because what your mind is looking for is proof that you're ready, but you don't have proof that you're ready because you won't do it. So I think that you could just kind of skip over this and just jump right to taking the client. Mike, what do you think about what he's saying?
Yeah, you're right. And Paolo, I think you're addressing two separate things, if I'm not mistaken. One is the mindset component, which Taylor's just addressed. So I won't speak to that because he nailed it. Like you jump and you build the plane on the way down. That's entrepreneurialism 101, man. You just have faith. You don't have to believe or even see like how it's all going to work. You just have to have clarity of what the end result is going to be. Where do you want things to go? And you just trust the process. Now, that's a very macro, like blanket statement. I know there's a lot of nuances and variables in that, which your brain, knowing you specifically, probably hates. But just know that we'll guide you through that process. What I do want to talk about, though, is this offer. Like, I have to create a 4-piece online course or something. This week, going into module 4, is the offer creation, the flagship offer creation process. So we're going to address more and more of that on this week and next week's cohort call, because there's a lot of different ways to get started with your business. And I would certainly not suggest that someone tries to sell an online course as their first process. Like, just work with a client, help a client solve a problem. Remember what we talked about before? All you are doing as a consultant is helping someone achieve something that they want faster, better, easier than they could on their own. That's it. They are compensating you for saving them time, effort, agony, pain, whatever it may be, because you know how to help them get that. That's it. Like, don't overcomplicate it. Don't build an online course. None of that crap. Like, just help them get an end result. Once you've done that multiple times, one-on-one with clients, then you can think about all kinds of extracurricular things, courses, ebooks, and things like that. But the idea here first is, let's just get you paid for helping one person achieve an end result that you know how to get. That's it.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds quite close to my current plan. Like, one of the previous breakthroughs was just kind of like going all in on LinkedIn. Like, my goal, and like each week I exhaust all of my invite limits and just, reach out. And it actually startled, like, a lot of the initial, like, not seeing progress was because the numbers were low. And once I crossed like 500, 1,000, I'm over 1,000 now on LinkedIn, like, the response is much better. And people are lining up. I'm doing these calls, right? So it sounds like, okay, we'll kind of try to onboard them for like bespoke kind of, your problems within the general area. So the next milestone, as I understand, will be just get a paid client, work with them, and kind of repeat that faster and more specifically, and kind of look for patterns and optimize from there. Is that right?
That's 100% correct.
Awesome. All right.
Cool. All right, Ben, let's go. We got 15 minutes, guys, so we got to rifle through here.
Okay, hurry up then. I think I misunderstood something there, because my question actually is backing off on that what Pavel said, because I actually ended up recording like 4 modules for a sales class. But like I'm a bit confused. Like, should I sell the class like a front end course and then sell something like personalized thing in the back end, or is the other 4 modules in the front end course like supplemental to like live sessions? Do you know what I mean?
What inspired you to start creating an online course?
That's how I interpreted the module 4. But
Okay.
also, I saw that's actually one reason why I joined LaunchKit, because I saw how you, Taylor, always sell everything on the front end and then get clients in the back end.
Got it. Okay. I have thoughts on this. Taylor, you want to go first?
You go first.
Okay. I'm going to look at module 4 in depth this week with you guys, and we'll make sure that there's more clarity then, because I personally don't think it's a good idea to right out of the gates start with an online course if I've never worked with a particular client base before. My personal take on it is work with a client multiple times, work with singular clients multiple times, get that pattern, just like I just described, get that pattern going so you have absolute clarity of what it is that you're doing, and that the processes that you are using, the phases that you're walking them through, is achieving the end result that your market's looking for. Then and only then, after literally dozens of clients, would I ever suggest building a course out of it in a way that would be automated. Now, if you want to have a course where they go through it on their own, just like kind of we are now, right? Like module 1, go through it, then you go through it with them. But in the earlier going ons, as a consultant, I am a huge advocate of being very hands-on and one-on-one with who I'm working with, because I need that instant feedback loop. I need to know that what I'm telling them to do is getting the results that they need, and using that as a way of developing my curriculum, concepts, and proof, social proof that I'm looking for.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sales course. It's nothing that fell from the sky that is like super, it's literally sales, but a lot of people can't sell. So,
yep.
Is the question, should I do a course, or what's the actual question?
How should I use the course? Like, if at all, should I use it like a front end sale, like sell it cheap for like 50, 100 euros or something? Or should I supplement it, if use it at all, during the live calls? Like, here's week 1, take this to learn what we're going to teach you there.
Yeah.
Week 2, like just spray it in as a supplement.
My kind of MO is to use the curriculum as more of a supplement. Mm-hmm. But that goes both ways. So like, I'll also use live calls as a supplement. The goal is to get the curriculum so good that people start getting traction before they even have a chance to get on the calls. But if you want to charge good money for it, then in most cases you have both ands at the same time. And you look at things that people ask all the time. It's the same question. It's always the same. Every new person asks the same question. That's like, boom, curriculum. We need to put that into curriculum. That way we don't waste a lot of time answering the same thing over and over again.
Yep. Nailed it. So the concept is, guys, 1-to-1 and then 1-to-many. But the 1-to-many course can only be developed once, like Taylor just said, once you know, oh, these are the problems. This is every single time. This is what people are saying, what they need, where they get stuck. Like, that's when you build that. Taylor and I were able to assemble the curriculum for LaunchKit in rapid fashion because we've been both doing it for over a decade each. Like, we'd been there, done that, built multiple businesses. So we already knew all the steps along the way. It wasn't a matter of like, oh, I wonder if people are going to deal with this or not. No, they are. Every single thing that's in LaunchKit are things that he and I both have deployed in real world marketplaces, right? And effectively, most importantly. So that's where we were able to develop that. But you'll notice, like, what are we doing? The live calls, the insertion of real-time engagement to make sure that people are moving along. Because even though the curriculum is set up in a way that should get people from point A to point Z without us, we're adding that value proposition of, no, we're going to make sure that there's just a level of customization there to really get you guys across the line in the way that you want. So it's, to Taylor's point, in rapid fashion, it's both and.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Mark.
So I've been, as a discipline, recopying any piece of copy that shows up in TWC on Facebook and trying to ask, like, how it's been put together and why. Where do I go after that? Can you give me like the 3 or to 5 books on copy that I should go to learn better?
Mike, let's just give them Copy Magic.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, Mark, Copy Magic's an 8K playbook. We have 15 or 16 of these in chamber. But for showing up, you guys, let's just give everybody on this call Copy Magic. You guys can go through and look at it.
Thank you so much.
Don't ever say I don't love you. Santa Claus is coming to town.
Look what happens when you freaking show up, right?
I'm telling you, man, that's amazing.
My psychology on this, Mark, is like, dude, you to be good at writing, you have to write a lot. And so I've studied, like probably my favorite old school copywriter would probably be Jay Abraham. If you have an unsophisticated market though, Jay will just wreck your copy. So I don't know what your market is exactly. If you have an unsophisticated market, go for like Gary Halbert and just copy out his stuff. If you're serving like Randy attorneys, Jay Abraham. I mean, like you could literally just write exactly like Jay and people will be like, oh my God, Randy's so smart. He uses big words, big concepts. And I view copy like music. So when you listen to a great piece of music, it's got variety in it. It goes through a verse and a chorus and a verse and a bridge and a chorus and then it ends.
Good analogy.
With copy, it's got the same thing. So there's a hook at the top. There's a story. There's some bump, like they're bullets. So like try to go through my posts and copy and emails and see if you can pick out the rhythm of it. And then you'll just be like, wow, this is a song, you know?
It's fascinating that you say that because when I first started trying to write copy, it was essentially cutting the exact opposite of the way I'd been taught in academia to write a dissertation.
Totally.
But all of a sudden I realized it has a lot in common with poetry in the way that you're thinking about what's in the mind's eye of the reader next and trying to anticipate where they'll go. I appreciate that. Thank you.
100%.
Yeah, it's fun, man. Once you go down the copywriting rabbit hole, it's like, whoa, you start seeing through the matrix on everything, commercials, sales letters, everything. You start going, oh, I know what they're doing right there. It's a pretty fun thing. Destin, you're up.
Copy tips for stage 0, but now I'm all set.
There we go. See, Ben, that's an example of curriculum doing heavy lifting. So he doesn't even want to ask the question anymore because he's just going to go through the curriculum.
Love it.
There it is.
Anthony.
Just going back up to my question real quick. Yeah, so question more so for Mike. When you said to work with clients multiple times one-on-one at first before you start creating trainings and like have the clarity of like what the client journey is, how many clients do you advise to get and work with to really know this with 100% clarity?
Yeah, so kind of like to what Taylor already mentioned is every single time I started with a new consulting client, if I had to do a process, whether it was an onboarding form or, hey, I need your passwords because we got to build your funnel, like anything that was going to require me that I knew that the next time I had a client, I was going to have to do that, I would build it into a Google Doc or a form or some form of a process so that the next time I got that client, I was like, here's your form, here's your doc, right? And so what happened over time of doing that over and over again is you start to develop a process, a system for delivering your information, for helping them achieve whatever it may be. So that can take quite a long time. I don't think there is a set number, but inevitably you're going to continually add to the curriculum, probably start pulling things away going, oh, now it's too much. It's too bloated out. Taylor and I love doing this. Like just going through something, go, can we pull this out and will it break it? No, get rid of it. Because people, I said this at the event last week, a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners confuse volume for value. People don't buy a course for the volume of it. They buy it for the solution it solves, right? If you can get me to where I want, if you can solve my problem in 20 minutes, I'll pay you 10 grand if it's a painful enough problem. I don't give a shit if it's 90 days long. That's not what I want. I want my problem fixed. So take my money if you can solve my problem faster. So as you develop a process for onboarding and working with clients, figure out how you can systematize as much as possible to make it easy for them.
Yes.
If you can make it easy for them, you're on track.
One thing Destin, you're like a really just. What do you do, Destin?
I study the unconscious.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Destin's comments are like pretty poignant. So, Destin, you should hop on a live and just do some training on your brain, because everyone here is smart, but Destin, you're in a different realm. Just so you know.
Thank you.
I see it and recognize it, but I'll just want to loop back to that. Did any of you guys ever go through any of Sam Ovens material? Okay.
Yeah,
Sam's one of my favorite people in the world. But going through his material is like running a marathon. It's hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And I remember back in the day, like I didn't have the fortune of going through his final product. What Sam did in 2015 is he literally just put all of his brain in a Dropbox folder and we just had to go through it.
Yeah.
I would think I was like client number 3 for Sam Ovens. And I learned a lot, but eventually I was just like, bro, I can't come to your calls anymore. Because I feel like I need to take a nap after each one. I've really gone the opposite direction. And like, I want trainings to be like 15 minutes long. And I want them to be dense enough that you have to go through the same 15-minute training 4 or 5 times. Because that's a better meter on like transferring intelligence than having a really long 4 GB video. So if you want to be really, really good, try to get your concepts down into 15 to 20-minute snippets. And if you can't get them down into 15 to 20-minute snippets, what does that tell you about your mastery over the subject matter?
Mm-hmm.
You're not there yet. So it's a feedback loop that you can use on yourself. If I can't get this thing condensed, I'm not a master enough of the subject, so I'm going to reteach it. Make sense?
Nailed it. Nailed it. Nailed it. And we're right on time, guys. Look at that. Well done, peeps.
Hey, let's rate this call. What do you guys think about this call? Scale of 1 to 10.
Rate the call. Rate the call. I'd say it's pretty good.
Epic. Thanks, Mike, for letting me on here finally. It's hard to on the other ones, but
yeah,
letting me show up.
You'll be on next week too, buddy. I promise. I'll unlock the gate for you. You can come and play with us in the play box here. It's all good.
I love it. I love it. All right.
All right, guys. See you. Peace out.